You see it every day. I go to networking sessions. I meet you at a lot of them where people give elevator pitches, and bless their hearts, poor people, they're reading their elevator pitch. Now, people that aren't watching this can't see what I'm doing, but I'm looking away at my card. I'm reading an elevator pitch and my audience is there. That's the worst possible thing that you could do if you don't know enough about your business, your product, your service to have to read it. People just feel totally disconnected. And it's the worst mistake that a person can make using a webcam. It is so important. And I preach it every day until the cows come home. I can't stress it enough. As soon as I look down, I've lost contact. You've got to look at that camera.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Creative Collaboration Show. This is Chuck Anderson, your host, and this is the show where we want to inspire you to stop working alone, get some help, and collaborate with others. And there's no better person to collaborate with than my guest today, especially if you're a speaker or anyone who uses their voice or specifically a webcam for getting their message out there, because this guy's an absolute master at using that as a platform and has really, I would say, perfected the idea of making money with your webcam. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I am so honored to have Gary Rogers with me here today. Gary, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I couldn't have said that any better. What a great compliment. I love working with you. You are a master of what you do, and it's an honor to be on your program.
Awesome. Well, that's very nice of you to say, and I'm going to make you the star of the show today. And this is something that, this whole idea of getting a message out. It's been something that I've been doing for almost 25 years. And before there were webcams, when we were just doing the handheld video camera, and then we had to try to figure out how to digitize it and all of that. And you think, well, I've been doing this for a while. Do I really have anything to learn about webcams and speaking on camera in particular? And it turns out you can always learn something. And you being a veteran in the business, have a lot of really great tips to share. So Gary, thank you. And I'm going to let you tell your story because you have a wonderful introduction. I love how you introduce yourself. And, you and I have been on a lot of networking meetings together. And so I'll go ahead and let you tell your story and introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thank you. As you can see, I'm an old man. You mentioned you've been doing this for 30 years. I've been doing this for almost 60 years, not with a webcam. That wasn't even invented. But I started many, many years ago as a salesman with 3M Company. I enjoyed sales and did well at it, and they promoted me to a sales trainer teaching other people how to sell, and eventually made me a training manager teaching a lot of different subjects, one of which was public speaking skills. And I did something in those days. I talked 3M into putting a video camera and a video recorder, very expensive recorder. This was years before home video. It cost a lot of money in those days to put this industrial video equipment in there, but we videotaped their corporate managers when they were giving presentations. It revolutionized our training. People could see the mistakes that we were trying to get them to avoid in our training. When they saw themselves, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it really revolutionized what we were doing. I really fell in love with video at that time. And about 10 years later, I left 3M Company and started my own television production company. I spent the next 35 years producing television commercials, infomercials, corporate videos, and some movies. Our clients included some of the great companies in the world. We produced projects for AT&T, Motorola, Mitsubishi, Coldwell Banker, Procter & Gamble. I sold my business about 13 years ago and retired. That lasted all of 2 weeks. I got so bored, I knew I had to do something else. And just then, webcams were starting to become popular on the internet. You could reach anybody in the world if you had one of these little devices and an internet connection. And I thought, well, that's something I could certainly do. And I've spent the last about a dozen years now coaching primarily entrepreneurs that sell a product, a service, or a course online on the internet.
That is amazing. And thank you so much for, I would say the advice and the tips that you've already given me, because it's, even though I've been doing this a while, there's always something to learn. I'm a lifelong learner, and someone with your experience, you're able to see the things that people are doing wrong and help them to adjust so that they can do so much better. And so one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about with our audience here, you think a webcam is just a webcam. You put it there, you're on Zoom meetings all day long. It's the reality of the world we live in right now. I'm on Zoom meetings probably 6 or more times per day. So I'm on my webcam all the time. And it turns out, Gary, that a webcam is not just a webcam. We don't just put it there and stare blankly at the screen, because there's a problem with that. So let's talk a little bit about the problem. Like, why does it matter so much that we use webcams correctly?
Well, everybody's got a PhD at watching television. You know instantly if somebody's doing the right thing or the wrong thing. When the pandemic started, news anchors would talk to people. They couldn't send out camera crews. They had to talk to people on their computers. And Nora O'Donnell or Lester Holtz, the news anchor, would talk to them, and they were talking to their audience, looking into their cameras. But the people that they were interviewing on their laptops were looking down at the laptop. And right now, anybody that's viewing this, I've lost connection with everybody. I'm not looking at them. I've got to look into that camera if they want to feel like I'm talking to them. And people just have to learn. It's a simple mistake that 99% of everybody I talk to makes every single day of my life. If you're on a laptop, which most people use, your tendency is to want to look at the person you're talking to. And in order to do that, you got to look down. And as soon as you do that, you've lost connection with the people you're talking to. When I started my coaching online, I knew from my production experience that I had to look straight into the camera if I wanted people to feel connected with me. It drove me crazy. I spent the first 3 years looking straight into that camera, and I couldn't see the people that I was talking to. And I want to see the people. You were just going like that. And I want to see that. Now I've got a big smile. I can see everything that you're doing. I learned a trick a lot of years ago, and now I teach all of my students how they can actually see the people that they're talking to, not down on the computer screen, but actually see them as they're talking to them, and have the people they're talking to feel like they're talking directly to them. It revolutionized my business when I found out how to do that. And now I teach it to literally everybody, and everybody that does it, it changes their business for the rest of their lives if they're using a webcam.
Now, I have some instructions for my audience before we continue here, because Gary just did something really cool here. He demonstrated the problem. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, which is just audio, you will not have seen what he just did. I highly encourage you to come back to our website and watch the video version of this. And I want you to look very closely at what Gary just did, because what he demonstrated looking away from the camera. And when you do that, it looks like you're not paying attention. And I think that as humans, we crave that connection. And, if you and I were having coffee and we're in a restaurant, we'd be looking right at each other. when we're having that conversation. But here we are in the post-pandemic world, or however you want to describe it, where now we live in this virtual world where we have these Zoom meetings all the time. And so we could be looking here. I've got a second screen. I could be looking over there. Something just popped up. There's the time. I look over there and I'm not looking at you. And there is a feeling, isn't there? Like it feels different when you notice the person is not looking at you.
You see it every day. I go to networking sessions. I meet you at a lot of them where people give elevator pitches, and bless their hearts, poor people, they're reading their elevator pitch. Now, people that aren't watching this can't see what I'm doing, but I'm looking away at my card. I'm reading an elevator pitch and my audience is there. That's the worst possible thing that you could do if you don't know enough about your business, your product, your service to have to read it. People just feel totally disconnected. And it's the worst mistake that a person can make using a webcam. It is so important. And I preach it every day until the cows come home. I can't stress it enough. As soon as I look down, I've lost contact. You've got to look at that camera.
Yeah, it's so true. And I see this happen on networking events all the time where someone is speaking, they look away. And then what do? I also look away, right? I am no longer connected with what they're saying. And you make an excellent point. When you're at a networking event and it's your turn to share, maybe you've got a minute, maybe you've got 2 minutes. Is it possible for you to memorize 2 minutes worth of content? And I would challenge to say that, yes, you absolutely could. But Gary, like, what would you suggest there? Because so many people are reading it. And why are they reading it instead of just, memorizing it and just saying it from the heart?
Because they think those words are so important that if they screw up and forget one, they're not going to come across well. And they're making the worst mistake that they can possibly make. Yeah, maybe you'll forget a word or two, but you're talking to your audience from the heart and they sense that. Your audience does sense that. Now, this is just one point in using a webcam properly. So many people don't have proper lighting, proper sound, just little techniques that you see every day on television. If you saw a news anchor sitting down in the corner of their screen, like so many people do when they're on their webcam, all they've got to do is fill up the screen and get a little lighting on their face to look professional, if you will. And you see it every day. People in their bedroom, with a dark light or a window behind them, which makes them just very dark. Little tips that are so easy to do. And bless their hearts, most people don't know how to use a webcam properly to really come across professional as soon as they turn it on.
Mm-hmm. If you're at a networking event, I think this point about looking professional, people today kind of discount how important that is. And it is extremely important. We use it in our business all the time. And so I agree with all the points you're making. I've even seen people on networking events there with no shirt on. They're in bed. And I get it. Some of the, with the time changes and all of that. But it kind of makes people uncomfortable.
It does.
When you're not displaying yourself in a professional way, or with that, it's like you want to look away because it's like, should I be looking at them or should I not be looking at them? And so, we're there to let each other know about our respective businesses. And so we just, for those few minutes, to show up a little differently so that it makes people comfortable, it makes people want to connect with us.
Well, I think my clients are the same as your clients. We are in the second fastest growth industry in the whole world, and that's the coaching industry. Second fastest growth industry in the world. And this is primarily the reason for that. So many people all over the world are leaving their jobs. They're starting their own businesses. And this little device allows you to reach anybody on the face of the earth with an internet connection. And if you're not using a webcam right now, you ought to be using it, because it can bring you so many more people than you can ever reach getting on an airplane and spending airfare, lodging, meals, rental car. If you had told me the day would come years ago when I was doing my business, the day would come when I could get in front of a little webcam like this in my own office and talk to people like I'm talking to you or your audience, I would have thought you were on something. But we're here today, and it is the most powerful promotional tool, sales tool, and training tool I've ever seen in my life. And most people just don't know how to use it or don't want to use it because it's frightening. It's out of their comfort level. It requires public speaking. And you know that the number one fear that most people have is speaking in front of other people. And if you get on a webcam, it's even more frightening because it's not natural. I'm trying to smile at your audience, and I don't see your audience out there, but I know they're out there. People are just uncomfortable, and they're missing a golden opportunity to expand their business by properly using a webcam.
And, a webcam is so powerful. And this is where we're going to tie this into the theme of our show, which is creating partnerships and collaborations and really effectively working with others. And we believe that entrepreneurship is not a solo exercise. This whole word of solopreneur is not my favorite word, because all of the years that I was trying to be a solopreneur, I didn't have any money in the bank account. And so your business only grows to the extent that you do, but also to the extent that your network does. And networking and collaborating and working together with others is really the key to fast business growth. And in today's virtual world, this idea of we're using the webcam, but more importantly, not just a webcam, but creating connection in a digital arena. And so this is so important. Now, Gary, I know you do have this free webcam workshop, which we're going to talk about here in a bit, but let's tie this in. Like, how is this webcam going to help people to make these better connections and partnerships?
Let me tell you how important it is. I learned this the hard way. When I retired and came back and started coaching on the internet, I had a lot of friends that told me, Gary, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on Google ads and Facebook ads if you want anybody to know what you do and how you can help them. And that made a lot of sense to me. I had never done anything on the internet before. I had no list. Nobody knew me on the internet. I knew my subject, but I did exactly what they said. I spent a ton of money on Google ads, Facebook ads, webinars, and emailing, and it would get me a client here and a client there. But I was spending more money than I was bringing in. And this was a period of 3 years. I was losing money. Now I may look dumb, but finally I realized, Gary, you've either got to find some way of exposing your product or your service, your company, your business, or I got to go back to retirement. And I had a good friend tell me about networking organizations that allow you to do an elevator pitch for free. All you got to do is get in front of your webcam, and usually they'll give you at least 60 seconds, and that's all, to say something important to attract the attention. And I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds interesting. I went to one of these networking organizations and saw people just really struggling. And I decided I would create an elevator pitch and invite people to spend 30 minutes with me in a free Zoom session. I felt if I could get in front of people and help them in my subject, they would be more interested in spending their money and taking my course. It literally revolutionized my business. I got a chance to know these people. They got a chance to know me a little bit. People buy from people that they have a comfort level with. Now I teach all of my students how to do exactly what I did. It revolutionized my business. I was ready to quit. But uh, people started to get to know me. And now I teach other people how to give elevator pitches. And we actually go one step further. I produce a video for them, a promotional video, where they are not confined with just networking organizations. They can send that video and they're the spokesperson, literally out to thousands or millions of people. It opens doors unlike anything you've ever seen. And it doesn't cost any money to do that, literally.
You make a really good point there, and that's that elevator pitch where you're given this 60-second opportunity to share what you do. And that's not a lot of time. In some cases, it seems like a lot of time, but it's really not a lot of time. So you really have to choose your words wisely. And when you don't get it right, you're on and off. It's like, oh, okay, glad that's over. But did anybody reach out to you? Was there any messages in your inbox? And if the answer is no, then it really wasn't an effective one. And when you really nail this, your calendar or your inbox can fill up. It's amazing. In fact, sometimes just doing the follow-up from these meetings, when you really nail it, because I've had my off days, but when I really nail it, it's like, whoa, that's a lot. I better allocate some more time to this follow-up. There's, some of the takeaways from today is webcam is super important, but then also it's what you say while you're on that webcam that's really going to get people to lean in and want to do business with you.
Absolutely. The words are so powerful. Every word's got to count. If you only got 60 seconds, you really need to get some powerful words. But then once you've got those words, then the biggest problem is you've got to deliver them with power, with conviction. And that's the biggest problem that most people have. And again, we go back to public speaking. It's the number one fear that most human beings have. Most people, they just don't want to do it. And it's really hurting them. Anybody could do what you and I are doing here with a webcam. But it has to be learned. It has to be taught. And we're learning new things every day. You mentioned that you are a lifelong learner. When you stop learning, they might as well bury you, really. Well, enough said.
Yeah, well, it's a good point because the world is always changing. And a good mentor of mine always said that if you stop learning, you're going to be well prepared for a world that no longer exists.
Good point.
Right? A world that no longer exists. It's moving. So if we're not moving with it, if we're not learning and growing and adapting, then we are going to be left behind wondering, who stole my cheese? Where's the money? Right? Like there is just, so it's so important to be learning. And, speaking of mentors, that was a quote that stood out for me. One of the things that we want to inspire our audience to do is to learn from people, get a mentor, whatever it takes. You're a great mentor. We are going to share the details about your free webcam workshop, which is really important. But Gary, how has having a mentor or learning played an impact in the growth of your business, and who are some of your favorites to learn from?
Well, it literally built my business until I started networking, giving elevator pitches, and associating myself online with people and asking people to get to know me in a free little workshop. I was struggling. I was ready to quit, literally. And it made all the difference in the world in my business. I've had so many mentors. I would be lost without good people that knew more than I knew. Literally, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And I really mean that.
Yeah. And I think that's really a testament to why this networking is so powerful, because we're able to surround ourselves with amazing people. And then we get to have conversations like this, Gary. I mean, a month ago, we didn't know each other really well. And now we've had a few times, a number of interactions so far. And it's nice to have friends like you in this business who if I have a question, I can reach out to, and vice versa. And, we benefit each other. And
Oh, absolutely.
that's
I
what
had
business
you
networking
in
is
front
all
of my
about.
group. I had you in front of my group a couple of weeks ago. You were talking about your project in affiliate programs. You are a master at it. And every single one of the people in my group they just went away feeling thrilled and wanting to get in touch with you. And now they're coming to your networking group. You are a master of what you do, but it doesn't matter if nobody knows about you. And you get out in front of people in networking organizations. I got to know you that way. Now my people are getting to know you. It just pays off in spades.
There are a lot of great networking groups, which Gary and I both can recommend to you. And to prepare you for getting the most out of that, you'll want to attend Gary's free workshop, because he's not only going to talk about webcam, but he's going to talk about the elevator pitch and, some of the public speaking things that you need to know so that you go there prepared. Right. And so talk a little bit about that.
Lighting and sound. And there are just so many things that we touch on that are very simple, but most people have no idea how to implement them. And I would like to invite every one of your listeners and your viewers to join me in a free webcam workshop. You're going to leave a link just below the video player, and on your audio listeners, you've got a link that you'll provide for them, I understand. So just go to the link after you've watched or listened to the podcast, and sign up at a time as quickly as possible. And we'll get a chance to get to know each other and have a lot of fun. I've directed a lot of Hollywood stars in my career, including Academy Award-winning actor Charlton Heston. And I tell everybody, if I can direct Moses, I'm not going to have any problem at all directing any one of your viewers or your listeners working with their webcams. I invite everybody to take advantage of that. I promise you, it will greatly improve everything you do for the rest of your life if you're doing anything with a webcam. And if you're not using a webcam, you got to start doing it.
At the time where I took your workshop, Gary, I had already been using cameras for 25 years. And I learned something in the first 5 minutes of that workshop that has already changed the way that I approach my networking, my business, my workshops, and everything. And that was just in the first 5 minutes of a 90-minute workshop. There were so many other great golden nuggets there that you're going to learn. And I will lean into my audience right now and say, look, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this or how successful you are. I guarantee that there is something there that you don't even know that you don't know that you're doing. And until you become aware of it, you cannot really change. Gary is a master coach at that, and it's going to be time well spent. So we'll make sure that all the links and the information here are beneath this video. Links are in the show note. It's free, so go for it. The price can't be beat, but I guarantee that your time is valuable, and this will be time well spent. And so just like this episode has been time well spent for me, Gary, and I really appreciate your generosity and all of the things that you do. And I know that you and I have lots more to do together. So before we sign off, I want to ask you a couple of questions. And one is, we talked a lot about business. We talked about webcams. We talked about networking. We've even talked about learning. And learning is a precursor to growing. And, I always believe that our business does not grow more than the extent we're able to grow ourselves. And so, this has been a giant personal growth exercise for me over the last 30 plus years since I started my first business. And so much of the learning that I've received is from books. And so I ask every one of my guests, what is the must-read book that you would recommend that all business owners or just human beings read because it would change their business or change their life?
It's been a bestseller for years and years and years, still is a bestseller. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, years and years ago. It's one of the best books that anybody, no matter what they're doing, can read.
You know, that is a book that has not been mentioned on previous episodes, but I will tell you that I was very blessed in the early 90s when I was just a 20-something starting my own business and I thought I knew everything. A good friend of mine handed me a copy of that book and I read it. And it changed the way I was. Back then, networking is that you actually had to travel and go to a networking event. And you know, I was making a mistake where I thought it was all about me telling my story. And my takeaway from that book, and I'd love to hear yours as well, is to be interested by asking questions instead of trying so darn hard to be interesting. And he tells the story about where he would go to networking events and just ask questions, not say a word about himself. And people would be walking away going, oh, you know, that Dale Carnegie is the most interesting guy I've ever met. And he didn't say a word about himself. And that's what stood out for me.
It's a key. Treat others like you want to be treated. The golden rule. It never goes out of date. And there's so much wealth of knowledge and information in there that applies to every business person or every person, period. And it simply doesn't go out of date. Now, when it was written, he was on trains. We don't go on trains anymore in this country, but the same principles apply. Getting to know people, letting them get to know you, and letting other people excel, and promoting them and helping them and serving them. Once you are kind to other people, it just comes back to you. Oh, I like that person. Chuck is just a wonderful person to work with because he's been nice to me. It just reciprocates. I can't even talk anymore. It comes back to you in spades.
It sure does. And this is one of the reasons that I love podcasting and I love doing these interviews, because it challenges me to be interested and not to be interesting. And even in my workshops now, we do teach a lot of content, but it's more of a drawing out. Let's ask questions of our audience and be interested in them rather than trying to present myself as being the star of the show. Let them be the star of the show. And webcams allow us to do that.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. And I'm on a lot of podcasts, and so are you. And I see a lot of podcast hosts. They don't know how to involve their guests and get them talking. I learned years and years ago 6 questions that are the most powerful questions I ever learned in my life. I've got them right here. I teach it to my students. They're called open-end questions: who, what, when, why, where, and how, because they can't be answered with a simple yes or a simple no. If I said to you, do you like podcasts? I'll just say it. Chuck, do you like podcasts?
Yes, I do, Gary. I love podcasts. It's one of my favorite things to do.
You just ruined my point.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Most people say yes.
Yes.
The conversation stops. Now, I got a little more out of you. Yes, I do. I love podcasts. Most people just say yes. But if I rephrase the question to one of those 6, who, what, when, why, where, and how, I'll just try it. Chuck, what are some of the things that you like about podcasts? Now, you can't say yes. You can't say no. You've got to come up with a more detailed response. And it's the most powerful thing I ever learned in sales: getting people involved, asking questions, listening to them, find out how or if they're a prospect, how you can help them through good old questions and listening to those questions.
That is an amazing thing. And it was a good demonstration. I did start with the word yes. I've just been trained so much to expand on that, but it's an excellent point. And those are the types of questions that make podcasting or consultations as a coach or business networking so powerful. Be interested in that human being across from you and not so much about how interesting you can be to them. It's not about impressing them. It's about getting to know them. And when we get to know each other, we can do more with each other. And that's really the purpose of this show, the collaboration show. We want you to partner with people. We want you to collaborate with people. We want you to be as successful in your business as possible. And we never do that alone. This whole idea of being a solopreneur is such nonsense because nobody really does this alone. And so, Gary, I'm so glad to have you in my network. And so you are my go-to guy when it comes to anything with video and specifically webcam and so much more. And I know that our folks are going to be well served when they attend your workshop. And so again, I just want to remind everybody that that button is beneath the video and link in the show notes. Go take Gary's free webcam workshop. You'll be glad you did. And I know that you'll make more money the following week because you did do that. So Gary, thank you so much for your generosity and the workshop.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. Just love working with you. You are a master.
Well, I really appreciate it. So Gary, as we bring this episode in for a landing and we send our audience back out into the world to go and sign up for your workshop, if you were to give our audience just one final piece of advice or words of wisdom, what would you say to them?
Just go out and work hard and don't be afraid of mistakes. That's the best way to learn, by making mistakes.
Excellent words to end this episode by. Gary, thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you. Please go sign up for Gary's workshop and make sure you come back here. We'll always have another amazing guest. We cover off amazing topics that help you to grow your business. And in the meantime, never give up on your big dream. Keep moving forward. Keep being awesome. And we'll see you here for the next one. Thank you, everyone.